Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello and welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. This week we are talking Tom Hanks films, as the film The News of the World from Paul Greengrass is out on Netflix right now. We thought it would be a great idea to do Tom Hanks films. As ever, I'm joined by the encyclopedia man, that is Boaz Dix. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, sir. How's everything?
Thank you, sir. I'm very well. Very, very well. Bit knackered, but I will press on. I found it very difficult to choose a Tom Hanks film because there are so many good ones.
Yeah.
It was really difficult to choose. I mean, I was very tempted to go with Saving Private Ryan, or even The Burbs is quite an interesting one. And he's worked with Spielberg so many times, Robert Zemeckis a few times. But ultimately, I think I went for the one that probably I've seen the most, and I think it's on the TV a lot. And every time it's on the TV, I'm like, yeah, I have to watch all of it now. So ultimately, I went with Robert Zemeckis' Castaway. What do you reckon about this one?
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. I love this film.
Yeah.
Really good, really endearing. It's a hell of a story about, struggle and survival. Yeah.
Should we go with directing first?
Yep.
I love how, basically how smooth and slick this film is right from the off. Like with the POV shots of the packages, was really interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of a bit interesting as well. They don't really go into that kind of style, throughout the rest of the film with that kind of really innovative POV stuff. But
Yeah.
I didn't mind that so much. But
Yeah, I really love that.
There's a lot of really great one-ers like Spielberg does. It's just so smooth and slick, that opening scene where you get straight into Tom Hanks's character in Russia, right into close up. At the end of his passionate speech about time. Which was great.
I love how they're always saying, oh, yeah, you're the guy who stole the kid's bike, to get the package on time. It's like, I didn't steal it, I borrowed it. But yeah, he's super into timing and, keeping up with time. It's like an advertisement for FedEx. You should join FedEx because, that'll save you.
That's ad.
Yeah.
But one of my favourite scenes, actually, is when the plane goes down. I was just like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And I think every time, a shot goes on the windscreen, the windshield of the cockpit, you're like, oh, shit. It's quite scary at those points.
Yeah.
And especially when you actually see the water come up, it's quite visceral in those senses.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing I would say that disappointed me in that scene is just the sound design. I wanted it to be a lot louder. I thought it was too quiet for me, and I'm not bragging, but my speakers are good. They're quite good. But I just thought they were too quiet on the mix.
Yeah,
with all the chaos which was going on. But that's just me, I guess. Did you find that, or
no? I think I agree. I was expecting when it hit the water and the water's rushing up and things that he's flying around all over the place. I was expecting it to be a lot louder. So yeah, I suppose I agree with that to a certain extent. Yeah, it was a lot.
I found it more chaotic when he was in the water itself. The waves coming at him all over the place was pretty intense, and that whole scene where he's about to get sucked into the engine and then it explodes was pretty impressive for me.
Yeah,
but I kind of wanted more intensity in the cockpit, in the plane before it crashes. But yeah, I don't know whether they just structured it like that so the scenes in the water were more impactful. I don't know.
I found I don't know. I found the plane crash quite intense. So Yeah, I don't really have too many complaints there.
Okay.
Also, basically, it's kind of funny because the locket sort of saved his life. Well, it saved his life because when the locket's on the floor, he unbuckles his seatbelt to go grab the locket. And the guy's like, "Oh, you sit back down," and then it's bang!
Yeah.
All the bloody cargo, boom! It would have smushed him, you know. So yeah, the locket definitely saved his life.
That's certainly a running theme. The picture of Kelly, Helen Hunt in the locket. That definitely is something that is littered throughout the direction of the film that keeps him going, that keeps him alive ultimately. Which certainly at some points does break his will to survive. But certainly his love for Kelly keeps him going. I love the lighting in that at the end of the scene as well. It's just all lit by the lightning flashes, and it's just, you love a transition. I thought it was a really great transition when it all goes to black, and then when the lightning comes back on again, the raft hits the rock. Is how he gets to the island. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really well done. I was going to say, like, skipping forward quite a bit into the movie, my favourite transition, and I really like this one, was just after he smashes out his tooth. Like, sorry to...
Oh, yeah.
So, but the transition I love about that was when it goes to 4 years later, but just how it did it. I thought that was astounding. Because it was like, he smashes out his tooth, collapses, it has a shot on the fire, and then the fire, it's almost like it's kind of fading away, and then it fades into the sunlight rippled on the water.
The water, the coast.
Oh my God, that was amazing. And then it was 4 years later.
And then, boom!
Yeah. Because I'm like...
Catches a fish.
Exactly. Because
from, like, really far away.
Yeah. Because I was like, what am I looking at here? And I was like, what? And then it's like, oh my God, it's the water. It's just, I thought that was a really good transition. I really like that. Yeah.
I really like the, I call it the dentist scene itself in the cave. Because it is a really nice single shot where you go from one roller skate to the other and you see his tooth in the reflection of the other roller skate. And then you come out. And then it cuts to a wide shot, and then you're like, "Oh, I can breathe now. The tension's broken." Nope. You get a big push in straight into the third, pump of his arm with the rock, and you're right in his face because you think you get away with not being right in there. I thought it was quite clever from Robert Zemeckis to give that shock value because you thought you were gonna have a breather, but nope.
You thought you were safe, but nope. No, you're in more danger now.
But one thing that kind of really freaked me out in this, just before that scene as well, did you notice the picture he draws of Kelly in that? It reminded me of Tim Curry from the It TV series. I was like, oh my God, that thing is scary, man.
Maybe his true love is Pennywise. Pennywise the dancing clown is getting him through this.
It looks really bad. I'm like, oh my God, no wonder you go a bit loopy 4 years later, attaching yourself to a volleyball called Wilson. Yeah. Christ.
Well,
it's Pennywise, the volleyball.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. I mean, he's a UPS man, not an artist. Not UPS. FedEx, sorry.
Oh, not getting sponsored by FedEx.
No.
This podcast.
No. There goes our Fed money.
Any other favourite scenes?
There's quite a lot of really good shots. Oh, anytime he gets really hurt, the camera has a really good way of zoning in on that. When he tries to escape the island the first time because he sees a ship.
Yeah.
And the waves, psh, psh, and then eventually a wave fells him over. And he lands on the reef and, like, on his leg, it cuts him, like, psh. Yeah, that was hard to watch. It's not. Really? It's not even that you see the wound. It's the fact that it's like, bam, he lands, and you can see, the squirt of blood, and him just going like that. And I just thought that was really well shot.
I don't know. That bit never really affected me that much. I don't think. I think it was just more the emotional stuff at the end, possibly. I think with like cuts and things like that, it I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. It has to be more dramatic, I guess.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Anyway, because I do like my horror films. So I mean, if his leg came clean off, then I'm like, oh shit. But
all right. Next time I'll cut his leg off.
Robert Zemeckis is like, Tom, we're going to cut your leg in this film. We're going to build you a nice leg so we can cut it off.
Yeah.
Like, what? So I'm going to be hobbling for the rest of the film?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It won't be a prosthetic either. Just get his leg off. Realism. Yeah.
But I do like the use of music in this film because there's very, very little music, certainly throughout the first hour or so. And the music only really kicks in when Chuck escapes the island, when he goes, over that really powerful wave, and then the music comes in, this emotional relief that yes, he's escaped the island, and then the music really helps build some emotion for the audience, which I found really a brave choice from Zemeckis. And then, of course, the saddest moment in the film, possibly, is Wilson's death.
Yeah.
Which is always very sad.
Well,
it's always just too much. Yeah. I remember, when I chose, Castaway, you just messaged me saying, Wilson!
I think it's like the most iconic thing to say when somebody says you're watching Castaway.
It's just great emotional pantomime for the audience as well. It's just like, he's behind you!
Yeah.
Turn around! You can save him, man!
Yeah. But he's got to basically choose between Wilson or the raft as well, because he gets the rope out and he can't get the raft close enough to Wilson. He's, I'm sorry, Wilson.
There's always a little bit of, I don't know, maybe doubt there as well with like his swimming ability, because in that moment I'm not sure. It's a difficult one whether if it means that much to him, maybe he would have swam and got him. I don't know.
No, I think if
he's just weighing up the risk.
I think if he swam and got him, then he would have lost the raft. It's one of those things. He swims and then the raft is like half a mile away now. Okay, now I'm gonna die.
I guess in that moment it doesn't matter about knowing what Tom Hanks' swimming ability is in the state of where he is in that film, in the story. So it does still work, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting. I mean, like he acts a lot alongside the volleyball, because I mean that's the only other kind of cast member with him through a lot of the film. It's kind of an interesting. Do you think the volleyball got a best supporting actor?
What, the Oscars?
Yeah. Should have done.
What, best supporting an inanimate object?
Yeah. Exactly.
What?
Yeah, you're a fucking inanimate object. In Bruges reference, amazing film.
Oh yeah. Have you got a favourite shot?
Oh man, I got quite a few. Like, so it's the thing is there are just a few that really stick to me. So when he goes down under the waves, with the plane goes under and then the water flies him up. I thought that was pretty impressive. Another one I really liked, I said, is the transition from the flames to the sunlight on the water. I thought that was really clever. Where he finds the dead body of the pilot.
Yeah.
Because it has him swimming along, and you see, the pilot is basically like that, laying on the water. And as he's swimming, it's like the camera is like next to the body, and it sees him from the distance, and then the camera goes under the water, and you see he is dead and bloated and horrible. And I thought that was really effective. Yeah, it's just how that shot was done. You're like, whoa, even before he gets to it.
Because I remember watching that part with my dad once, and he was just like, oh, in real life, you would have definitely just stripped everything that he owns, And I was just like, well, I don't know. It's a Hollywood film.
Wait, he would have
got to give the guy some, literally just get rid of all of his clothes, just take everything for, Tom Hanks' survival.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know.
Just giving him some dignity.
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah, I mean, just because it's a survival film doesn't mean you, like, turn into a calculated robot that would know what to do,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if your dad was on an island, then I'm sure he'd survive very well. Wouldn't care, just take off your clothes. It's fun enough. But I don't see a problem with that. It kind of makes sense. Although it was kind of funny that he couldn't think of any words to say, and he does a little funeral for him and a headstone.
Well, he just says, "Well, that's it,"
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And he doesn't even measure his body so he can,
Yeah.
he has to just tuck the legs into the grave.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
You didn't measure the body first.
Yeah. I thought that was really funny.
Anyway.
It was kind of morbidly funny. It was like, oh.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great moments of levity in this film. There's too many to mention.
Yeah.
I deleted this note, but there's just so many like ding or I call them, light bulb moments where he just figures out a problem to solve whilst doing something else. Where he finds a tool to, the rock breaks that creates like an axe shape for the coconut.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's another one where he's like scraping the coconut, and then he's like, "Oh, I can scrape the wood to make a fire."
Yeah.
I really enjoy all that stuff. It just keeps the audience really engaged.
Yeah. Or when he found fresh water, rainwater on the leaves, and then was pouring them into the coconuts. Like that was pretty clever. I was trying to think. There was a funny bit. Oh yeah, where he's going over the FedEx packages to find anything useful. Oh, what package does he? Oh, where he's basically like the useful stuff and the useless stuff, and he opens one and there's a dress for some woman, and he lays it on himself like.
Oh yeah,
Nah.
This looks good.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
But then he's like, "No, I can use this for fishing or something."
Yeah.
But my favourite shot is the close-up of Hanks like sleeping on the raft. Yeah, when the whale wakes him up again, when the tanker's there, like the shot like stays on his face, and then when he wakes up, he's so exhausted, so dehydrated at that point, and then the camera kind of like tracks up his hand, and he just says Kelly, really quietly, as it moves up to like the bridge of the tanker. I thought that was really, really well done.
Yeah.
So score, Boaz, for directing. What are you going for?
Oh yeah, directing was really good. Like 8.6.
Yeah, I think I would probably go fairly similar. I mean, Robert Zemeckis has just had an incredible career. It's just always disappointing just with his recent output. It's not been that great. Like I saw The Witches the other day and it's just meh. I prefer the first one really.
Yeah. Well, I saw the trailers for that. I wasn't impressed. I know this sounds superficial, but I wasn't impressed with the CGI. I was like,
yeah.
Oh man, that looks ugly for a.
Because he had like a weird animation phase in him, didn't he? With like Polar Express and
Oh, I like that film.
What was the other one? A Christmas Carol. Which certainly very much lower tier Zemeckis for me.
I quite like those films though.
All right. But Castaway is certainly one of his best, certainly in his top 3. I would say maybe even his top 1. So I would probably go 8.7, I think. Just really well crafted. Should we go screenplay then?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think this screenplay is quite extraordinary, actually. Right from the off, there's some great lines in this when... right at the start with Hanks's passionate speech, to introduce the character, he ends by saying, "We never allow ourselves the sin of losing track of time," which obviously is his mantra on the island at the end, because he does this, he makes markers on the rock about where the sun goes, to work out the months and things, and then, uses that to work out the timing of when he should leave the island.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, that was one of my favourite lines. I know he repeats it, but it was so catchy,
Certainly this film is quite, tragic as well, and uplifting at the same time. But I'll get more onto that at the end of this section. But there's an interesting moment, just a little moment on the island where when the torch is working and he's just flicking it on and off, to put light on the pocket watch of Kelly. In that moment, certainly... Kelly is the one that's keeping him going. Yes, time is the thing that is his mantra to get him off the island, but that's the how, Kelly is the reason why he wants to get off, and continue his life with Kelly. But obviously that does not happen when he gets back to America. And there's an interesting moment in the hotel at the end where he's like just lying on the floor, not the bed, and he's turning the side light off and on, and it just, knowing the fact that he can't be with Kelly anymore, and it's just really tragic. And and in that moment, it just feels like a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder, I guess.
Yeah.
That he's just not ready yet to go back into the normal world, without Kelly.
Yeah.
Just a really heartbreaking scene there.
Yeah.
With no dialogue,
I think, it's the biggest tragedy of the film. Like, he was getting through all of this so he could be with her. You remember when he goes to see her? Because, like, she wasn't there at the airport, but her husband was, or whatever, and that was really awkward. He didn't say anything to him. And then goes to see her, and, they catch up. I thought it was where he's like, we need to talk, and you're like, oh, wow, this is getting serious. And then he's like, about, like, a football team, like his favourite football team has changed names.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell is that
Nashville
about?
Got a football team now.
Yeah. I thought that was quite, it was like it was about to get really tense, and then, yeah.
But it was lovely, that bit.
It was amazing.
It was just like nothing happened a little bit, like their normal kind of banter, if nothing happened, it was great.
Yeah, no, that was really good. I like that. From a script writing point of view, it was quite good. Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's such a shame. And they kiss, and you think he's probably going to go with her, and then it's like, no, you've got to go home. Yeah, it's fine.
Are you talking about the moment in the car, because they're clearly still in love with each other. Certainly Kelly is still has some love for Chuck. She even says, Kelly, that I always knew you were alive. And there's a great moment in the car where they're both soaking wet, and Kelly just says Chuck, and then Chuck cuts Kelly off by saying, you need to go home now. You need to go home. Because obviously in that moment, Chuck is like, if I don't cut her off, things could be different. We could be together again. But it's just like he knows at the back of his heart, I guess, it's wrong,
Yeah.
She has a life now. Things are just different, and it just wouldn't be right, So it's just really tragic in that sense. Do you remember when on the island when Chuck reads the birthday card? I just find that's really significant in the end when you finish watching the film. Do you remember what that says in the card?
Oh no, I can't remember.
It says, the most beautiful thing in the world is, of course, the world itself.
Yeah.
Love, mum and dad. And in that moment, he's like, the world is a really pretty sucky place right now. He doesn't give a shit about the world. He just wants to get off this fucking island.
Yeah.
But then obviously at the end, he's got a fresh start. He decides to keep breathing. The sun will still rise. And at the end, the world's his oyster. He's got no commitments at all. It's kind of like the Jack Reacher character. I'm reading Jack Reacher at the moment. It's a bit like that. He's got no commitments at all.
Except he's not killing people.
No. But it's that kind of same concept.
Big significant difference between them.
But I think that's what's so appealing about the Jack Reacher books is the fact that he's got no commitments. He's completely free in his life now. He's just got a clean slate. He can just start over.
Yeah. I thought it was quite interesting. Like at the end, he starts driving around, and you're like, "What's he doing?" And he's delivering a FedEx package, and I thought, "Oh, he's gone back to that job," but no, he's returning the presents that had helped him on the island. He had actually saved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of sweet. But it's also like, dude, you're a bit late. It's 4 years late, for Christ's sake. This service is horrible. Yeah. UPS would have been much better.
Yeah, it's like, I've already got that.
Yeah.
I got that 4 years ago.
Yeah. God.
I just got my money back, not a new one.
Exactly. 1 star. One star review.
Yeah. But I guess obviously the thing with not opening that last package, it's certainly a very Hollywoody, poetic thing. Because certainly if you're in that island in real life, there's no way you're not opening that last package. Oh, yeah. You're opening them all.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be a fucking survival kit in there for all he knows.
That would have been pretty funny. Or a flare gun. Yeah. Or, yeah.
So, that's the only thing I'm like, really?
Yeah. I thought it was kind of funny where he's talking to Wilson and it's like, oh, what was it? I know it's not a good idea, Wilson, but, and he's just going off on him. At least, I won't have to be on an island stuck talking to a goddamn beach ball, and throws him away.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, that was really sad because I thought it was quite funny where he loses his temper, but then it was really sad where he's like, no, this is literally his last friend in the world, and he just threw him away, and he's like so upset. Yeah.
Because he's definitely in very much two different emotional states, isn't he? Between the title card with 4 years later. Before that, he's very much in survival mode. How am I going to get off this island? And just trying to work out what he needs to do. And then when he first creates Wilson, there's not, there's a few lines here and there, but he's very much aware it's a volleyball. But then when we cut to 4 years later, his emotional state is very different. He's very much on the edge of insanity, I think, in my opinion. Because obviously, as you said, there's that moment in the cave where, I can't remember what they're doing, but he's having an argument with Wilson, and then he literally just shouting at him. He's like, oh, I'm just talking to a fucking... Well, he doesn't say fuck. But he just says, I'm talking to a volleyball, and then just like chucks him out of the cave. And then a few beats later, he snaps back into this on the edge emotional state of like, oh shit, I've just chucked Wilson out of the cave. I need to go save him, as if he's another human being on the island,
Yeah. I thought he was going to lose him because he's looking everywhere, and then the camera is like with the volleyball, and it's just out of sight, but he runs over to it. Yeah.
It's really, Hanks is fantastic in that moment, so convincing. Brilliant. But I think the one line, the more I watch it now, that makes me more emotional than, let's say, the end, is when he's like on the plane with his friend Stan. Chuck says to Stan, so you had my funeral and then you had Mary's funeral. Stan, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't around when Mary died. I should have been there for you and I wasn't. I'm so sorry. That bit makes me more sad now as I get older than I used to when I first watched it. Just tells me that Chuck is just an incredible human being. Yeah. And certainly in the world right now, we need like more Chucks in the world. Yeah. He just feels so guilty that he got himself lost on this island that he couldn't be there for his friend. It's just such a gut-wrenching moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, genuinely great.
You got a favourite line?
Wilson is high up on there.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. There's a few good ones, like, you wouldn't have a match by any chance.
Yeah, that was funny. I like when they were saying, we even had your funeral. There was a coffin and everything. He was like, there was a coffin? Like, what the hell was in it?
Yeah. I think my favourite one is, my favourite Wilson-related one is literally the last interaction Chuck has with Wilson before he dies. When the sails blow off in the storm, when he's on the raft, he just says, oh, they're gone. I don't know why. It's just like Wilson's, in his head just saying, why is the wings gone? I don't know.
Yeah, that was funny.
But I think my favourite line is actually towards the end. He has a long speech to his friend in his home. You couldn't imagine him being back in Memphis without Kelly. And he's like, I know what I have to do now. Got to keep breathing because tomorrow the sun will rise. Who knows what the tide could bring. And at the beginning of that monologue, Chuck feels, really hopeless and lost, more so than he was on the island because because Kelly isn't in his life anymore. But now, obviously, he's got a clean slate. And...
Yeah. Even in the speech he makes, he's like, I'm so sad, I've lost her again and I'm so sad, but I'm glad she was with me on the island,
But the only thing I find with this film, though, is I don't think you can make this film today. I don't think it's timeless that much.
Really?
No, because I just think the end is great. It really is, and it works for when it was made, in 2000, which was about 20 years ago now. I just feel there would be so much media attention on Chuck that in terms of at the end, I feel like he would want to be back on the fucking island
Yeah.
when he gets back, because this world is so shitty and dark, and the media is so powerful. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, the media is so powerful and just wants to know everything about these type of events that they wouldn't let Chuck. They wouldn't leave him alone now. There would not be a very tranquil moment for him at the crossroads in America at the end. That wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
There's no way. And it just reminded me of films like Gone Girl and Room, the film with Brie Larson, where, you know, Brie Larson is kidnapped and with her son the whole time, and then for the first hour it's just this kidnap film, and then when she comes out it's just all this, she's just struggling even more, dealing with her family and all the media about just getting every detail about this event which happened with Brie Larson. And it's kind of this similar thing but in a more thrillery aspect with Gone Girl. But I just feel like if a kid was watching Castaway now, I don't think, well, certainly a teenager, if they watch that film now, they were like, that's not realistic. You know, it just doesn't ring true to me. What do you think about the timelessness of Castaway?
I think, I mean, that could have been a story into of itself if they had done that. He's constantly hounded by the press and what have you. I mean, it's an extraordinary story, so you'd imagine it would get a lot more media coverage. But I like the way it ended. I think it's kind of sweet. It's not too complicated.
It's of its time, I would say.
I'm not sure, you know, like maybe you would have had a lot of interviews even at the time, you know. It's an interesting look at the ending, and its place in, like, you know, modern times, if that would actually translate well.
So what score would you give screenplay?
Maybe about 8.6.
I'd maybe go just a few points down, decimals down, just because of that timeless aspect. But that's, I mean, it's certainly very, very good still. So I'll go 8.4, I think. So acting, we haven't talked much about Helen Hunt, who plays Kelly. We've talked about her, but it's certainly from Tom Hanks's perspective. But she certainly has a few really interesting scenes. One of the really sweet moments I found, like right at the beginning, which just tells you that this relationship is really quite sweet and genuine, is when Tom Hanks through to like the copy room in Memphis. Kelly's character just looks really tired, but just so pleased to see Chuck when she arrives, and then, you know, and they just do this really like sweet dance. Do you remember that bit near the beginning? That little scene just establishes that these two are so close and deeply in love, you know. What do you think about Helen?
Yeah, I thought she was really good. There were quite a few good scenes with her. I like, what was it, where he's got to go and they're having like Christmas dinner, and the way he looks at her and she's like, really? But it's like, you know, it's kind of holding his hand. Yeah.
When his pager goes off. Pages.
I like that. It's like they're going through their diary. They're both incredibly busy people. It's like, no, can't do that, can't do. But come for New Year's Eve. You've got to come for New Year's Eve. Yeah, I will. He was late by 4 years, but, you know, he came there eventually. Yeah. He didn't specify which New Year's, so there we go.
Nope. Yeah, that scene in the car when Chuck like gives her all these crappy Christmas presents, like, was it tea towels and a Russian pager or something, and then obviously just he pretends to leave the car keys in his pocket, and he's like, oh, gotta give you the car keys back. Oh, and here's a wedding ring, an engagement ring. Yeah. And her face, Helen Hunt's face, is just a picture. She's really great in that moment of just like, oh my god, he's proposing in a car.
Yeah, that was nice.
And of course he has to say, I'll be right back. I'm like, no, you don't say that.
Yeah, I know.
But of course they had to put it in this film, that line.
Haven't they watched, is it Scream? Where he says, don't ever say I'll be right back.
Oh, I love, one of my favourite bits actually in the film is actually on the aeroplane, and then you see like a really tiny cut on his thumb that he's like slowly taking off a plaster in the toilet, and then suddenly, boom, he's hanging off of the toilet
that
door.
was pretty crazy. Yeah,
it's really great
cut.
cut.
Amazing cut.
It's just really funny, he's just like, as if he's in so much pain with this little cut. It's like, oh, ow.
Yeah. Do you think God was like? You think God was
great.
like? You think that's pain? Fucking watch this. But yeah, I'll give you something to
pretty
complain
much.
about.
One of my favourite bits from Tom Hanks is when he creates fire. Look what I have created. I have made fire. Look at me. I have created fire. It's just a great bit of, hilarity and humorous acting from Tom Hanks. That always makes me smile, that bit. And then he's like, he puts like the palm leaves over the fire, and then like the burning leaves like try nearly land on his body. He's like, ow, stop it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's quite funny. It's it's a big Boone moment in that part of the script. It's like he's been trying so goddamn hard. I think at one point he cuts himself, doesn't he? Isn't that how he gets the blood too?
Yeah, he cuts himself when he makes the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's how he like gives Wilson his face, his cut hand.
He just face palms the volleyball very, very nicely and chucks it.
Yeah, so it's like he's been trying for a while. It's just never really succeeded, and then it starts to flame, and he's just like ah, and then cut to it's night time, and it's an enormous fire, and he's really reveling in it.
I have created fire.
Yeah. If Tom Hanks hasn't played a caveman, he really should. With that impression, I mean, I think he's basically played everything under the sun right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow played a caveman.
Have you got a favourite performance?
Like a bit in the film. I think like, when he throws the volleyball away, when he throws Wilson away, and he's really sad, it's just that switch of, it's quite funny, like he's shouting at a volleyball, he gets really angry, throws it, and then is like, he's almost in tears, like, well said, I'm sorry, well said.
One of my favourite bits from Tom Hanks is actually in the end in the airport, when Chris Noth comes in, who plays Kelly's new husband, and he's just talking to to Chuck about, can you please give Kelly more time? It's a really difficult time for her. And like Tom Hanks is basically like, I don't know, he has this incredible like stillness in that scene and inside he must be just, his heart is broken and just, just raging, and it's just incredible stillness he has, which I think looks really easy to do, but I don't think it is. He's such an incredible actor. He's definitely you can definitely feel it on screen with that stillness that he gives, which I find quite interesting, really. But yeah, my favourite performance is Tom Hanks for sure. As we've covered before, it's almost a bottle film. What score are you going to give acting for Castaway, Mr. Encyclopedia Man?
I will give it a 9.
A 9? All right, okay.
I think literally...
I sounded so surprised.
I don't know. You fool. You misguided fool. I think every Tom Hanks film deserves like at least a 9. Like just on the on the back of Tom Hanks alone. I think
if Tom Hanks is on the bill of your film, it's a 9.
Exactly. I think even if he was like in a Muppets movie, it's immediately shot to 9. Just for
I'm going to go
inclusion.
7.5. No.
I'm going to kill you, man. Me and a million other.
But I think, Tom Hanks is great as well, but I think Helen Hunt, who plays Kelly, is also pretty extraordinary. Obviously, she doesn't have that much to do, but when she is on screen, you know exactly where she's at in her character. Those moments near the end are pretty remarkable, actually, to bring home the emotion at the end of the story for both these characters. So I'm going to go... I'm going to go the same, actually, 9. Let's do the scores then for Castaway. 52.3.
Nice.
So your pick, Baz. What did you pick for Tom Hanks films?
I picked Road to Perdition. I almost forgot the title there. That wasn't for dramatic effect. I literally...
All right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Road to Perdition. It's an amazing film. Yeah, one of my favorite Tom Hanks films. I think one of my favorite films in general. So,
do you want to just tell us a little bit what it's about?
Yeah, sure. The story is mainly focused on Michael Sullivan, who's the son of Tom Hanks's character, who is also called Sullivan. Mike Sr., I suppose. So it's mainly, like, it follows him, and he's not entirely sure what his father does. He has a younger brother. You can tell he's quite distant with his dad, and it's not so much that he's afraid of him, he just doesn't really approach him, his dad, it doesn't really show him much warmth. And they go to someone's funeral, who's a friend of his dad, and this, like, basically grandpa figure is hosting the funeral. It's kind of very clear that, like, they're in the mafia, he is a mob boss. They're all mafioso, they've got the clothes and everything. Something not quite right. And it turns out, like, his dad, Tom Hanks' character, is like an assassin for the mafia.
Should we start off with directing then? What directing parts do you like? I'll start. I think one of the great scenes in the film is, like, fairly near the start, is where, like, Michael, Tom Hanks' son, is like, he hides himself in the car, and Sullivan, Tom Hanks, and Connor, Daniel Craig's character, like, drives to this warehouse, and they're, like, questioning Kieran Hines' character, Finn, and they're talking in a warehouse, and Michael gets out of the car, and he's, like, looking through a gap in the door or in the wall or something, and then suddenly, he sees Finn and Connor. Like, Finn is tied up in the chair, and Connor has got his gun out and just talking to him, but he can't see Tom Hanks. And then all of a sudden, Tom Hanks steps over the hole, and he's literally looking through his legs, which is like, oh crap!
Yeah,
I better not make any noise.
I just want to kind of chime in. You made a mistake. The guy's not tied up, but he is sat down. Because they're not there to kill him. They're there to just warn him. Just don't, escalate things. Just.
But then Connor shoots him.
Yeah, shoots him. Mainly because he says the truth, which is like, don't you think I know what's going on? You framed my brother, do you know what I mean? And all this. And he just blows his head, he just shoots him in the head, like, before he even finishes.
It's really well directed, that, as well, because, like, there's so many, like, reverse shot of, like, Finn hitting the ground, cut with Michael's reaction of him falling to the floor, which I found.
It goes really quite slow as well, doesn't it? When he shoots him, it slows down.
Oh yeah, it goes to slow down.
This is like an important event. This is the first time he's ever seen somebody being killed.
Yeah.
The guy also has, like, 2 bodyguards. Just immediately after he hits the ground, it's like Tom Hanks. He just, like, floors him. Dead, yeah.
And, like, the shell casings get into his face a little bit, Michael, he certainly sees them right in his face. It's just such a shocking moment of discovery for Michael, knowing exactly what his dad does now, who is a killer.
Yeah.
I think Daniel Craig is pretty extraordinary in this film as Connor. And there's a scene where, like, they're all sat at a table, and Paul Newman, who plays John Sullivan, and Connor, like, laughs at something, and Paul Newman's like, "Do you find that funny?"
Yeah.
And
it's a really
John basically humiliates him by trying to get him to apologize sincerely, and then, like, they all, like, go somewhere else, and there's a shot on Daniel Craig just on his face, all out of focus, and you see all the guys walking past him, and when they all go, when the pushing's finished, then it racks focus to Daniel Craig just looking really pissed off.
Yeah.
And it just shows us, like, it's like the audience is just, like, invisible to Connor at that moment. It just doesn't matter, and for John as well. It's just like the important people are all behind Connor at this moment. It's just a really interesting choice from Sam Mendes, who directs this film.
Yeah.
That he keeps him out of focus for a good, I don't know, 5 or 7 seconds before he gets into focus again. It's quite just that extra humiliation for the audience as well.
I like there was a scene, like a few scenes before that, which definitely gets his character, and him just being annoyed. But when at the wake, his father starts playing the piano, and Tom Hanks jumps in, Michael Sr. And he, they do this amazing melody, and just during it, like, everybody's like in awe. And you just see his face. It looks so pained, but he's smiling. The giant smile on his face. But he looks like like he's going to crack. He looks like he's almost going to cry. Mike Sr.'s youngest son is like, why are you smiling? Why are you always smiling? It's like, because it's so fucking hysterical.
Yeah. That's quite significant.
Yeah. No, really, really detestable man.
There's so many great moments for me in the assassination scene where Connor is all in black and he kills Michael Sullivan's wife and other son rather. Because Connor's like all dressed in black pretty much, and he's got a handkerchief, a black handkerchief or a scarf or something over his over his nose and mouth. And just before he opens the door to their room, and literally just before he's about to shoot them, the camera goes right into his eyes, those incredible blue eyes of Daniel Craig, just kind of like of massive hesitation and shock, of just that realization of just actually what he's doing, and then bang, bang, they're gone, just that shot just gives you that sense of possible regret just before he's about to do it,
Yeah, I think it was amazing as well, like when he comes down and he's all in a sweat, and when he takes off the mask, that scene, it's just incredible. And you think, like, Michael Jr. is right there, and he's like,
you're like, oh shit, he's
been seen, But you see him look at the reflection and tidy himself up.
Yeah,
that was really.
And he has a chance to escape. And even the following shot after that, where Michael is just hiding, by the door, and he's all in like silhouette, and it's just really beautifully lit in that moment as well.
Yeah.
But then after that, just before Tom Hanks arrives, the film literally becomes a horror film for a bit, where Michael like slowly walks up the stairs. And the camera is like crabbing really slowly along the corridor, and then Michael slowly walks past the camera, real slow, pauses, and then walks into the room to find his wife and brother. And it's like, and there's like he's like completely emotionless, just in complete shock, and he doesn't know what to do. It's just, and the camera doesn't follow him; it just stays there for a bit, and then Tom Hanks comes in. And he's just sat there at the dining room table, and he just lifts his head up, just complete blank on his face. Whereas Tom Hanks is just incredibly emotional off screen, where definitely. He's screaming his head off. It's quite extraordinary, really.
Yeah. So I'll go through some other like shots that I really liked. Oh yeah, when Jude Law comes up on the scene, that's good. It's like, I know a guy, and you see like feet and a suitcase or whatever, a big bag. Yeah. Like walking by to a crime scene.
It's a really extraordinary, like, dolly zoom shot. Yeah, it's really wide. The first shot you see of him is.
Yeah. It's quite eerie. It's quite strange. So like this guy he means business. Like there's something you don't see it immediately because he just looks like a very kind of amusing, lanky man with a camera or whatever.
I really like the scene in the dining car. The dining.
The diner
place.
Yeah, that was really tense. Yeah,
because there's a moment where it's just normal coverage pretty much, and there's a few shots where like Tom Hanks picks up a knife or whatever to create some good suspense, and Hanks is sweating a bit. When Jude Law says the line, "I shoot dead people," the camera goes a little bit tighter in on him. It's really subtle.
Yeah, I've noticed
to give
that as well.
extra impact for that line, and it cuts like really late as well. So as soon as it hits him, he says the line, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I really like that scene. I thought, that's a good use of camera work. This guy's a threat. Tom Hanks knows it. They're just playing along. I like conversations where they just play along from like a script point of view. Very Columbo-esque, and it's like, I like that.
Have you got a favourite shot?
Well, I think my favourite shot has to actually be the end. I think there's one I liked. Well, I wouldn't say right at the end. So there's one iconic shot for me.
Yeah.
Which I will rewatch again and again if I
think I know which one you mean.
And there's so much about it. Like narratively, it's very impactful. And it just looks incredible, but it's where he has to sort of gun down his dad. I wouldn't say his literal dad, but the mob boss. It's like they're Paul Newman. They've been having this roller coaster adventure, stealing as much money from the mafia as they possibly can to sort of force them to reveal the location. He gets shot, in a shootout with Jude Law. So a lot has happened, taken in by an old couple, and He's talked to Paul Newman. He's really tried to beg him to just give up his son. I just love the whole build up to it, the whole thing of like him, Michael Jr. seeing him pack all these guns and stuff, and then like Paul Newman in the rain, and the rain is beating down, and it just crescendos with all the music and stuff. You can't hear anything, just the music. Like even the rain sort of drips out, and then just people getting obliterated. It's just crazy because it goes into a zoom in of Paul Newman's face of like, shit, he knows what's happening. You know, the driver is dead of his car. It like looks at the driver, looks at him. I know what's going on. And just as the camera moves through his people to him, and you just see them getting mowed down.
All in the foreground, and Paul Newman's in the background at the car.
Yeah.
You know, and it just tracks around him with people just dying.
Yeah, just all of his bodyguards just getting filled with lead, you know.
And also throughout that scene, you got the piano music come in of them playing before, which is really poetic.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah. Such a heartbreaking scene. I think, like, from every point of view, it's, in my opinion, like, just the greatest scene in the film. It just hits really hard. It looks great. The score is amazing. As you said, it ties in to the earlier part of the film. Like, narratively as well, it's like, to avenge his family, he has to kill basically his dad. Like, this guy is like his dad. It's just so powerful. And then the fact that he's just very accepting of it, like, acting-wise as well. Just like...
Yeah.
You know, I just think it's a
Did you know Sam Mendes really struggled in the edit in that scene, like with all the sound mix. He spent days on it, and they weren't getting it right at all. Then at one point he was just like, you know what, get rid of all the sound, get rid of it, and just have the music.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, works now.
I think it works. Because it really shocked me the first time, because you're expecting, especially when you see the gunfire, you see in the background like flashes of light, and you can't hear anything, and you can't hear the rain, you just hear the music. And to me, it was like, whoa, you know, it's just, I don't know, it just adds that extra...
Cinematography is amazing.
Yeah.
It's just so beautifully shot.
Yeah. I also love towards the end of that scene, like, when he shoots him, and he's like, you know, I'm glad it's you, and then he shoots him.
Yeah.
And just how he, like, stares up at the buildings, as if he's, like... It's just, I don't know, to me, it feels
and
impactful.
The sound comes back in when he shoots him at that point.
Yeah. It comes back in, you hear the rain, he shoots him, and he's just looking up at, like, the buildings and stuff. To me, it's like people judging him, you know? Like what he's had to do. Yeah, really great
That's
scene.
my favourite shot as well. Score, for me, directing. I think I would definitely say it's one of Sam Mendes' best films, I think.
I think it's a really pretty film, and it's a good thing it is,
Really, it's really skillfully directed as well. Is it better directed than Castaway? I'm not sure.
I think, my personal opinion, you can say what you like, but I would put this a bit higher than Castaway. It's like I would rewatch more scenes from this film, and it's mainly to do with like the camera work and just how it's done. I would just come to more and more scenes of this. Yeah,
I think it is better directed, but not by a long way. I don't think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 8.9 for directing. How about you, sir?
I think I'm going to go a little overboard because I just really like this film. But I might go like 9.4, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty...
I mean, I went very overboard for Get Out, so...
Yeah.
Right. Let's do screenplay. What do you think of the screenplay?
It's amazing. I just like... There are so many like iconic lines as well. I think the film is like... It's one of my favourite films. I would say we could even talk a ton more about directing, you know, some other shots that I quite liked.
Yeah.
I just want to say one other shot I quite liked was when he actually kills Connor. That was amazing. Of like, you don't even see him do it. And then
another reflection.
And the reflection,
I mean, I'm not as fond of that bit as I am as you, because I think Tom Hanks clearly nudges that door when he walks by. It's like, oh, got to nudge the door a bit. Here you go. There he is. You can see him now.
Fair enough. I just thought it was a clever shot, but
yeah.
All right, fair enough.
But that was my initial thought. Is like, yeah, Tom Hanks has clearly just knocked that door, so you could see Connor. Anyway, I mean, the guy's not blind, so
maybe he is. It's a secret, you know. Anyway.
We've touched on it a little bit already, but near the start, you know, Michael's younger brother asks Connor at the funeral scene, why are you always smiling, at a funeral? Like, that just seems weird. And then he just says, because it's all so fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's, just from that one line, there's kind of beef there between Connor and John and Michael to a certain extent, And then obviously later in their bedroom, Michael, I can't remember his name, but the younger brother, Peter, there you go. He just...
Oh, he's asking what his dad does. What does dad do? Yeah. And he was like, he does secret missions. Yeah. Sometimes he's
just like beating around the bush, doesn't really want to tell him properly.
I don't think he really knows. He's like trying... I think that's probably the catalyst for why he decides to go along. Like, maybe he's never really considered this. Like, his younger brother's like, what does dad do? And he's like... And he just makes up something. Like, he's a secret agent and stuff. It's like...
And then Peter repeats the line saying, it's also fucking hysterical.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite funny. I like that. What did you say?
One line that's really interesting as well, and Sam Mendes has actually commented on this, and he actually regrets leaving this line in the film. A recent interview he gave about his career, I think promoting one of the Bond films. And it's the line, sons are put on this earth to trouble their fathers, that John Sullivan says to Michael. And Mendes regretted putting that line in, and it's just quite interesting, really. What do you think about that? I mean...
Yeah, it's a fine line. I don't see why he regrets it. Yeah. It's just...
Maybe he thought it was just too downbeat at that time.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe I've got to disagree with Sam Mendes. Maybe I'm just looking at this film with such golden plated glasses or rose tinted glasses. I think almost every line is perfect, and that line, I think it makes a lot of sense. His son is a massive pain in his ass. He doesn't like his son. He's a pain in the ass. So it's like when he's saying that, it's almost like, yeah, I know what you're going through. Yeah, my son's a pain in the ass too, And to be honest, if you think about it, the theme of the film is the sons do bring this upon their fathers.
Yeah.
The whole saying of the sins of the fathers are cast down on the sons, but it seems the opposite in this film. It's like the things that the sons do end up really impacting the fathers. The fact that his son saw a murder kicks off Paul Newman's son to kill Michael's family. So it's like, yeah, none of this would have happened without the kids. So, I think it's maybe on the nose, but it's definitely true.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he regretted it. Maybe it's just, as you said, it's too on the nose, not subtle enough, and it's too aggressive, maybe. I don't know.
But, you get the feeling that he doesn't really like his son that much, which is, I suppose, all the surprising that he's doing everything to protect him, but...
certainly in the beginning, their relationship is very cold. There's a lot of scenes where, at the start, when they're just having dinner and there's just like nothing there between them, no interaction, and you feel like he's just getting to know his son as they're on the run. You know.
Well, I think when he gets he hears the information that his son has killed Michael's family, he just gets into the room and just starts hitting him. It's like, God damn, curse you!
Oh yeah.
But then he's like, and then Daniel Craig, Connor, is like crying his eyes out like the bitch that he is. But a pathetic man. He's killed a woman and child, yet he's the one crying. But then his Paul Newman just embraces him and is like, oh no, oh my boy. I thought that's a really good scene.
Yeah.
It's probably like the first time he's actually cared about
you never really see Daniel Craig like that. You're so used to him being James Bond.
Yeah.
And this hard, steely guy. And then
he's a tough guy.
Just shows his incredible acting range, that he's just not seen as James Bond. He's got so many great films under his belt.
He's a thoroughly unlikable weasel.
Yeah.
Like, he's just the worst. I like the line where is it Stan Tucci? Is that his name?
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci, where he's playing a mob
Chicago
leader
mob boss.
A Chicago mob boss. I love when Daniel Craig just bursts in. It's like, this place is like a fucking prison, and he's like, just shut up. And like Stanley Tucci undresses him down, and he's like, I can take care of myself. No, you can't. That's why we're here. You can't tell your thumb from your dick. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
You're a baby. You can't tell your thumb from your dick. I love it.
This is Paul Newman's last film, actually, before he passed away. I mean, what a film to end on. He's incredible in the scene with Hanks in the basement under the church, and he says, at the end of his speech, there are only murderers in this room. Michael, open your eyes. This is the life we chose, the life we lead, and there is only one guarantee. None of us will see heaven. Yeah, Michael, Tom Hanks says Michael could. You know,
he's not talking about himself there. He's talking about his son.
His son, yeah.
That would be kind of weird. Tom Hanks would be.
And it's just kind of this whole thing for me that maybe Paul Newman's character is just completely kind of blind of this actual hope for his children, that, you know, if you do stop what you're doing and just relinquish some of your power and greed for money, you know, that your son Connor could have been, you know, a better person, a better human being. Whereas Tom Hanks certainly realizes that, you know, because his job is just full of violence and hate and greed, that he just does not want that for his son. You know, he's only just starting to connect with him now that they're on the run, and he just doesn't want this life to infect Michael, like, you know, like John has allowed Connor to become like this. You know, John has never seen an opportunity or the realization that Connor could be different and could help him. He's just completely blind of that. With that line, it's just like, yeah, well, this is the only way we can live. This is the only, once you go down this road, there's no other road to go down. But for Tom Hanks, it's like, no, I don't believe that. You know, and it's quite an extraordinary moment at the end when Michael is pointing the gun at Jude Law's character, you know, after Tom Hanks has been shot, and then Tom Hanks is looking at him, just shaking his head like, no, do not shoot him. Don't do it. Because if he pulls that trigger, he's just going to go down the same path as Tom Hanks, you know, and get himself killed like he has just done.
No, it's a really good story beat. It's a running theme on the film of, like, him not wanting his son to be like him, to be damned like him. And it is a running thing. Like, even the first time he gives him a gun, Michael Jr. is, like, freaking out. He's like, no, I don't want it. It's like, literally, this is for your protection. But you know he's a sweet kid. He doesn't want to... He wouldn't hurt a fly, you know. And yeah, it's kind of paralleled at the end where he takes the gun and he's going to shoot him. But and then the bullet goes off. It goes so close to Jude Law, the sound of the, you know, gun, that you think Mike Jr. has killed him, but it's actually Tom. I love that reveal. That was a great bit of camera work. And I also like the speech that he gave his son, well, their conversation where he's like, did you like Peter better than me? And he's like, oh, I loved you both equally. Yeah. And he's like, but you were always different with him than me. Well, you were different with me. And he was like, Peter was such a sweet kid and you just reminded me of me. So you could tell he doesn't quite like the way his life has gone. It's all blood and murder.
Because he says, I can see you, I can see me in you.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks says to Michael.
Yeah.
There's a great moment after that, and then Michael just gives him a hug, and it's just like it's an act of forgiveness. And in Hanks's stillness again, you know, we're talking about Hanks's stillness, but this is certainly one that's unexpected for Tom Hanks. He's just a bit like shocked by it. It's like, oh, okay, this is like, I know it sounds corny, but it's like, oh, this is what love feels like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite really subtle acting from Tom Hanks there.
Yeah.
But going back to screenplay, certainly when Michael and Michael Jr. get to the beach, you know, and they get to the beach, you're like, yes, they've made it. They've made it.
Yeah.
And then, but at that point, it comes into your mind like, oh, hang on, we haven't seen Jude Law for ages.
Yeah.
Where is Jude? Oh, no, he's been shot in the back. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
I forgot him for a bit. I was like, oh, yeah, where's Tom? Where's Jude Law gone?
Yeah, same. And you see, like, his scars that he was given by Tom. Yeah, really creepy smile as he's trying to take a picture of his dead body. Yeah, he's a really creepy villain. There's so many, like, lines that I really like from this film, and I just think they're quite...
You got a favourite?
Oh, man, I got so many that it's kind of insane. But one that I, like, quote a lot, because I just think it's like... You remember, like, at the beginning of The Wake, where you first meet John... you first meet the mob boss and stuff. You first meet Paul Newman. And I love his little speech as he's like, you know, I'm not really good with words and making speeches. And he gives a toast to him and he says, may he at least see heaven for 1 hour until the devil realizes he's dead. you know. And,
Yeah, that's a cool line.
I think that's just a great line. But yeah, Paul Newman comes out with some cracking lines.
I think my favourite is when Hanks goes back to Chicago and he meets like one of the bookmakers or something for the mob, and the guy says, "I'm just the messenger," and then
send Mr. Rooney a message for me.
Yeah,
what is it?
Yeah, the camera goes like pushes in real quick and then shoots him. That's a really cool moment.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that one as I was searching my memory, and I didn't mention that. But that is one of the most badass ways to kill someone. You know, if anybody wants to kill anybody at some point, do that. Do that.
We do not condone violence on the Film versus Film podcast.
Well, you don't. I do. Kill everybody you can. I'm joking.
Oh, God. The Encyclopedia Man is secretly a psychopath and serial killer.
Secretly? I wear it on my sleeve, man. No, we're going to be investigated by, like, the FBI, MI6. But, yeah.
Yes, we like death on this podcast. I like lots of blood in horror films, and Boaz likes lots of cool lines when they die.
Exactly, yeah.
So score for screenplay for me, I think the screenplay is pretty remarkable as well. I think I'll probably go a little bit higher than Castaway, because I think, as I said, I don't think you can make Castaway how it is now today. So, but I think this film is more timeless than Castaway, so I'm going to go with 8.8 for screenplay.
I would say screenplay. The lines are just so memorable, and there are just so many character moments, and the story's really good. I'd give it something really high, maybe like a 9. I'd give it a 9.2.
Yeah, solid 9.
Yeah, 9.2. Yeah.
So acting then, who's your favourite performance? Who did you like best?
Oh man,
to start off with.
There was just so many really good performances. I think the kid does really well, but I mean, I would say he does well, but he is overshadowed by the adults. But he does a good job. You know, Tom Hanks, brilliant. Daniel Craig, brilliant. Paul Newman, brilliant.
Great to see Corin Hines in there as well. He's great.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, when he's because he's the one whose murder like sparks this whole thing, where he's at his brother's funeral and like gives a speech and then he's like so like angry and sad, like that kind of, you know, and they have to like escort him out. Yeah, no, lots of really, really solid performances. I would say I think Paul Newman might do it for me, actually. I think he might just, for me, edge it out slightly from Tom Hanks. Paul Newman isn't in it as anywhere near as much as Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks really is the film, like he is in many films. But I would say, like, Paul Newman, I don't know, he just resonates with me. You know, it's very emotional when he dies, to me. And I thought, oh man, it just broke my heart.
I think Tom Hanks is really impressive in this as well. He definitely goes through a proper arc, especially in his acting. I think when the first time you meet him, he's very quiet and very reserved. It's
like if you think of like a stereotypical gangster assassin, he is just blank. He is a brick. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, to start with, he is like heartless. You know, doesn't really talk much, doesn't really say much, doesn't convey his emotions.
Yeah.
He's just like he's a brick. But just how he opens up in this film. It's like anger and love and joking with his son and, emotion. It's just great. He goes through quite a lot.
Yeah, there's a great moment to introduce Daniel Craig's character as Connor, where, like, Michael goes up to his room because John has asked him to go get him something, and then Connor's just there, just smoking a cigarette and, you know, just lying on a sofa. And he just tells him, no, I'm busy, you know, and just gets him out of the room. Not in a nasty way or anything, not in a mean way, just in a very nonchalant way. Get out. And then when Connor comes down, you know, for the speech at the wake, the camera is just on Connor with lots of people around, but he just looks so pissed off. You know, in that moment, you know that
he's going to be trouble,
Yeah, It's just an incredible deathly stare, you know. It's just a great contrast from, you know, Tom Hanks's introduction, where it's just very slow and very reserved, you know. We haven't talked about Jude Law much. What do you reckon about Jude Law's performance in this?
Yeah, Jude Law is pretty good. I think it's so strange because I do sometimes forget about him. He's not like in the film hugely. He's like the assassin that's after
He
them.
leaves a great impact.
He does leave a great impact, definitely, yeah. And he does come across as like...
Very psychopathic.
Yeah. So one of the things is I was saying he comes across as a sociopath, like he just doesn't give a shit about anything or anybody. Like he doesn't have any empathy. But I would say, that's obvious in his actions. But even just the way he sort of interacts with people, he just seems really awkward and quite, it's like he's talking to a phone book or whatever. But like in a good way. It's just like they're insects to him, sort of mentality. And he does convey that quite well. Just this sort of sociopathic sort of...
But for me, the most striking part about, and possibly scariest part of Jude Law's character is that hair. Oh my God,
yeah.
that is awful.
Do you think that's how he kills his victims? He just takes off his hat to see the hair and they have a heart attack. Yeah.
Yep, works every time.
Yeah.
My God, that wig is quite extraordinary.
Exactly. That's how Tom Hanks survived. He's partially blind because he's always knocking into shit, so he can't see. So
to create great reflections for the camera.
I like when Stanley Tucci approaches Paul Newman.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and it's like literally they're in the next room.
Yeah,
he said
like
to them,
they anticipated his move.
Yeah, they anticipated his move. He said to them like, "I want Connor's location. I'll work for you. Whatever." It's like, "No can do, Mike." Well, he says it much better to him than that. Like he gives that speech of like, "If you do this, you go at it alone. Nobody's going to be with you. Yeah, and he goes in and just Paul Newman, his interaction with Paul Newman. There's so many really good bits.
I think the only negative things I would say is that I don't think this film is for everyone. It is at times quite violent. Jennifer Jason Leigh is in this as Tom Hanks's wife, and I was like, oh yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Oh, she's dead.
Yes.
It's a very masculine male film, which certainly won't appeal to a lot of people today. I mean, this film, 2002, I think.
Yeah, one of the strange things is I was talking about this film to my brother. Like, I watched this film, and I don't know why, but I started thinking about John Wick. And I thought, holy shit, the plots of these films are identical, except substitute family for dog. And you have John Wick. I was just like, I was blown away. So, I mean, that's a more masculine film than this. I think this definitely has emotion, To me, it definitely did make me nearly cry. So it is an emotional film. And I would say, there is action, but it's not like an action
certainly
film.
When it comes...
It's a revenge film, but yeah. But not like...
When it comes to emotions, I did get more emotional at Castaway, if I'm honest, compared to this one.
Yeah.
Maybe I was all dry at that point. I don't know. Because I watched Castaway first. So.
Yeah. You're like, I've cried enough. All my emotions are gone. I feel nothing. I am a shell of a man.
So score... my favourite performance, yours is Paul Newman. I think it's a great shout. Yeah. For me, I'm just going to stick with Daniel Craig, actually. I think he's not in it a lot, but I think he's really extraordinary when he's on screen.
Yeah, definitely.
And, this film and Layer Cake, certainly the two films that got him the Bond gig, for sure.
Yeah.
So score for acting, I'm probably going to go with 8.5 for me.
Cool. Yeah, I'll go 8.9. Actually, maybe, 8.9.
Yeah, because I do think Hanks is better in Castaway, I think.
I was just going to say of interactions I quite liked. Do you remember with his son where they're at a diner or another diner and he's talking to him about, can I have some of the money from the bank robberies? Like, how much do you want? $200? Sure. Could I have had more? You'll never know. It's like, you'll never know. I like that.
So let's add up the scores then for Road to Perdition. So the score for Road to Perdition is a very respectable 53.3.
Nice.
So Road to Perdition wins this episode by 1 point.
Really? Holy shit.
Castaway got 52.3.
Wow, that's close. Frickin' heck.
Yep, that's it for this week's podcast. Next week, as The Mauritanian comes out, which stars Jodie Foster. So we'll have a look at Jodie Foster films for next week. Thank you, Boaz. As always, you've been rather good.
I've been excellent.
I've
been
gonna
amazing.
stick with rather good.
No,
I like that saying.
No, I've been incredible. I've been
Yes.
just beyond
And I've been
comprehension.
Fabulous.
No, you've been subpar at best. No,
Subpar?
I'm joking.
Fuck you. And on that note, bye-bye.
Yeah, no, you're going to come to my house in a minute and shoot me, aren't you? So anyway, yeah.
My Tommy gun.
Yeah. Keep it in theme. Anyway, see you, bud.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast or on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.